Hello and welcome to another guide. And this time we're gonna be talking about the last Lizardman leader that is playable and obtainable. And the last one is this one right here. That is Crusch, the White Scale Healer. Personally, my least favorite of all the Lizardmen, but well, it's another character, that you can get here. And as you can see here, I do not have neither a high level with the character, neither her arc light, or a great, you know, combat power level. But anyway, I'm gonna do a guide of her because I'm missing this character. I haven't done a guide of her yet, and maybe some people may be interested in the character, either in leveling her up or uh, knowing her skills, her synergies, or whatever. Or maybe some people are just curious about her. So yeah, here is her guide. First off, we're going to be taking a look at her basic attributes, and we can see here that she's a priest. That means a healer. She specializes on obviously healing, purifying, and buffing her allies. And we see that she has double C's, one on attack and one on physical defense. Obviously, C on attack is very understandable since she is a healer, a more classical healer, unlike some of the modern healers we have right now. And the C on physical defense might be a little bit of a letdown considering this character is highly susceptible to, being bursted in one or two turns. So the C on defense definitely is not helping her at all. On the other side, we can see double Bs, one on magical defense and one on speed. The B on magical defense is, like decent or average. She doesn't have good magical defense and she doesn't have bad magical defense, especially compared to the physical one. And the B on speed is just like an average character. She's not gonna be your first character to play, and she's not gonna be your last character to play, unless you are playing an entire composition with everyone has B on speed or something like that. And lastly, we can see that she has S on HP, the only really good stat on her basic attributes, and it's health. We have seen this before. The majority of healers on the game have S on her hit points or health points, whatever you know it, and she's not an exception. Now, we're gonna go to the accessories because the accessories always tells us what is good to level up on her. We can see here that at tier level 3 she obtains 10% more healing boost, which is really good considering her role. Tier level 6 gives us 10% more health points, which is nice, is her best attribute. And at tier level 9 we gain 15% more effect resistance, which is quite common between the healers as well. And we can see that naturally she doesn't have a lot of effect resistance, so this is gonna help just a little bit, but not that much. Now, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna try to explain you the skills in two ways. First off, I'm gonna read it, and then I'm gonna explain it with more simple words in case some people don't understand what the skills are. Starting with the magic bomb, the basic attack. This is very similar to like what the priest shelter or the princess shelter does. You have double modes with this basic attack. You can either choose to attack an enemy, a single enemy, deal magical damage based on certain percentage of Crusch attack plus her own health, or you can touch an ally and instead of dealing damage to the enemy, she is gonna heal that ally by a percentage of her own HP, starting with 11.5%, can go all the way to 16%, and also give to the ally 10% turn meter boost. So you accelerate the turn meter of one ally with this basic attack. So even if you don't have any of the other skills available because of cooldowns, the basic attack still gives you utility. Or if you're using, a chase team or an assist team, the basic attack can trigger your allies' extra attacks and get the kill. So this is a utility skill, or well, a utility attack, and it's honestly decent. Now I'm gonna go to the Lionheart, the first real active skill. And she's gonna restore HP to the ally that you choose based on Crusch max HP. That's why her HP is on S rank, because all of her healing scales from her health. So we can already see what we have to upgrade on her. Also, she purifies one debuff after the restoration, so that means that she's gonna purify one debuff from the ally in question. Is one random debuff, so it doesn't prioritizes anything on particular. She just purifies without any kind of priority. And after healing, she gives the Lionheart special buff to the target for 2 rounds, as well as the critical damage boost, and a plus of 50% to meter boost. As we can see here, the critical damage boost is an increase of 30% of the critical damage, and Lionheart is her own exclusive buff that increases the effect resistance by 25% and immunizes the control stage for 2 rounds and can stack. So if you can make her play very quickly, like 2 turns in a row, something like that, or almost in a row, you can stack this up, and it's really really good. If we compare this with, for example, the basic effect resistance boost, she's gonna fall short because effect resistance boost increases it by 45%. This is only 25%, but she not only increases the effect resistance, but also makes you immune to control effects. Control effects entails things like the freezing effect from Saryusu, like the stun from Victim or from Seshi, the taunt from, for example, anniversary. Sorry, the taunt from the tank Calvedo or Yelled About second skill, and also makes you immune to silence from things like Divine Blessing or Divine Persuasion from Pestonia, or the ultimate of Nigredo, or the ultimate of the SR solution, things like that. Silence, taunt, stuns, and freeze are the control effects. So you can make one ally immune to that with this skill. Also, if she is 4 stars, she is going to inflict silence on the enemy that attacks the ally that you uh, heal and put the Lionheart for 1 round. This silence will have a cooldown of 3 rounds, but it's a control effect that you can put on the enemy targets that focus on the ally with the Lionheart special buff. With level, this only increases the healing and decreases the cooldown, so it will have at the end of the upgrades 1 round of cooldown that can be very easily mitigated with something like a Burmare set. So you can basically spam this skill to make someone immune to control effects, to give them critical damage boost and 50% to meter boost, which is a lot. It's very very good, and we're gonna come back to this later when we talk about the uh, combos and compositions to play around her. Now, the passive skill, the Ancestral Spirit, is one of the easiest passives on the game. Naturally, she's going to have an increased effect resistance. As we can see here, it's 10%, but can go all the way to 20% more effect resistance. That, added to the accessory tier level 9, it's going to be a total of 35% effect resistance, which is decent. Well, it's straight up good for a laser main character. And at level 5, she will purify one random debuff from herself every time she gets an action, as well as healing herself for 50% of her own max HP. That means that she will constantly heal herself and purify one debuff. And that means that she basically has what is basically a mini champion set. Well, a, similar to a champion set. Champion set heals the user after each action. This is before the action, so it can be a little bit better on that regard. But the healing is a little bit less because uh, champion set also adds extra health to the user aside of the healing. But basically, she has a mini champion set integrated on her own kit, and I see that as basically a very good skill. Now, let's go with the ultimate skill, Middle Cure Wounds. She basically will heal all the allies by a certain percentage of her own HP. That increases from 16% all the way to 20%. And she will give effect resistance boost to the target for 2 rounds. As I told you earlier, you can see here that effect resistance boost increases it by 45% more than what Lionheart does, as the example that I gave. And not only that, but she gains 20% to meter boost after using the skill. And something that the game doesn't tell you here, if you don't double tap the skill and instead activate the skill and then touch one ally, that turn meter goes to the ally that you choose instead of her. But if you double tap, she's gonna be the one that gains the turn meter boost. And at 5 stars, she also is gonna give attack boost to the target for 1 round. The same one that is gonna gain the turn meter if you touch it is gonna have a 30% extra attack, and the cooldown is going to decrease at level 5 from 3 rounds to 2 rounds, which is decent. And she also has one extra that is the captain skill. If she is designed as the captain of the team, when the enemies are during controlled periods, all the enemies' effect resistance is going to decrease by 25% and they will take 15% more damage. And what this the control periods means, that means turns where the enemy is either frozen, silenced, stunned, or taunted. Those 4 effects. So if you can put the enemy under those control effects, the period is the time which the enemies are under that control. And this, I will say, is a really good captain skill because it's giving you double effects. One is going to decrease the enemy effect resistance under certain circumstances, that is when the enemies are controlled. And two, it's going to make the enemy take more damage when they're during control effects. So you're gaining double benefits from this. Now, uh, now that I have explained the skill set of the character, we're going to be going to the shop for a little moment to take a look to her arc light. And it should be right here on the Stardust Exchange. And I'm gonna tell you her special or exclusive effect and if it's worth it or if it's not worth it. But first, let me find it, of course. Here it is, the Botanic Monster. The exclusive effect is an advantage. As soon as she enters the battlefield, it's going to increase all the allies' effect resistance by 30%, and that percentage can be increased depending on the stars of the arc light, and that effect is going to be reduced by 7.5% each round up to the last 7.5%. Also, upon entering the battle, she's going to increase all the allies' damage taken down by 12% and is going to be reduced by 4% each round up to 0%. So that means that as soon as the game starts, she's going to increase all of your team effect resistance and it's going to make all of your team take reduced damage by a certain percentage that depends on the stars of the arc light. You see the initial value is 30% effect resistance and damage taken down, that means less damage or damage reduced by 12%. And each round that passes, this percentage or these values are going to decrease until you get the last 7.5% effect resistance and no damage taken down. So this is going to help your team to not be controlled as soon as possible, as soon as the enemy throws their skills, and not get bursted down. Also, if you open this, we can see that the Arclight also gives her HP, attack, and flat amounts, and increases her HP on percentage, which is really nice, considering that is her best attribute. So, the Arclight is worth on this Lizard Man on Crusch, I will say yes. If you're thinking about upgrading this character or, using it on either your main team or your secondary team or something like that, yeah, the Arclight is gonna be almost needed. If you're gonna, increase level up the skills level and all of that, you may as well just get her the Arclight at 1 star. Because having more effect resistance and damage taken down basically for free as soon as the game starts is really, really nice. Because a lot of enemy compositions start off with something like Seshi Ultimate or Negative Ultimate, in which they immediately try to control one enemy of them, Seshi might try to stun someone as soon as the game starts, Negative is gonna try to, silence someone, or they're gonna make space for something like Sariusu or Albedo to take a turn and control multiple enemies at the same time. So if you have that effect resistance from her arc light, you not only have more chances of not being controlled, but you will also take less damage, which is really, really nice. Now, I'm gonna quickly talk about the awakening levels You can see here she doesn't have a single level or a single gem, but I'm gonna recommend you something that I have on a similar healer, and it's this one. uh, as you can see, she's also not properly leveled up here, 15 out of 30 awakening levels, but it's enough to explain you this. um, the first gem, I will recommend you the energy gem HP, because it's going to be increasing her best attribute, that is the health. But if you can use this one, the one that increases it on a percentage, is going to be even better than just using a flat amount, because what is going to be bigger? An increase of 320 health, or an increase of 10% health, or 8 or 5% health on characters that have more than 20,000 health points? Of course, the one on percentage is going to be better. So try to get the one that increases the health on percentage on her in both levels, the one that is at level 5 and the one that is at level 20, because it's the same slot for the character. And when you get to this one, the Rant gem, the one that is at level 10 and level 25, try to give this one, the Might gem, effect resistance. It's more effect resistance. The first upgrade is going to give you the 5% effect resistance. So if you can get both, even if you only have one upgrade, you're going to be increasing her effect resistance by 10%. But you can rank it up, more levels, going to be 8%, and the other 8% is going to be a total of 16%, and all of that. You're increasing her effect resistance, which plays into her arc light, that plays also into her passive skill, that also plays into her accessories tier level 9. So you have a little bit of synergy there. Now, for the rare gem, I would recommend you either this one, the 42 gem HP, or the one that increases the speed. If you go for the gem, you try to maximize your healing, and you're going to be trying to maximize her survivability. But if you go for the HP, sorry, for the one that increases the speed instead of the HP, you might have more utility, because she's a B character, which in terms of speed. So giving her a little bit of a boost on her speed will be really nice. And lastly, for the Awakening level 30, I would recommend you this, the Power Gem Healing, that gives you healing boost, can give you from 1.5 to 3.5 and on and on. Obviously, it's gonna be good because all about this character is healing and buffing the allies. The basic attack heals, the first skill heals, the ultimate heals, the passive heals herself. So if you have healing boost, you're basically making all of her skill set be better or be boosted. Everything except the arc light. Now, we're gonna go to the tricky part here, and it's the relic sets. First of all, you can see here that I don't have max level relics. It's level 10, 10, 15, and 15 out of 20, which is not really good, but it's enough for me to show you, because the important thing is the sub attributes and the relic set. As you can see, my option here is the Hairfire set, and the game recommends you Hairfire, Maxim, and Alchemy set. Alchemy will basically give either defense boost to the ally with the highest defense, or attack boost to the ally with the highest attack every time she gains a turn. I will not recommend you this, because she already gives attack boost with the ultimate if she's 5 stars, and defense boost it doesn't give, but it's not necessarily something that you must have on her, because Lionheart can help your tanks, and the defense boost of Alchemy set is gonna go for the tanks all the time. Maxim set will randomly remove one debuff from an ally if no damage was taken after action. So if she doesn't damage the enemy, or if the enemies don't damage her after her turn. Uh, it fits in her, because she will almost all the time will be healing her allies instead of attacking the enemy. But honestly, this is removing one random debuff. You don't know if you're gonna remove one control debuff or one silly debuff, like for example, bound or something like that. I don't see the benefit compared to Hairfire. Hairfire, on the other hand, aside of giving you HP, just like Alchemy, but not like Maxim, this one is gonna give you health and increases the healing by 12% if you have the Sparkle set. That means the set of prismatic quality, and the healing gets increased not only from 12%, but to 24% instead. That is extra 8% if the target, the ally that you're healing, has her own HP below 50%. So you have an increased healing potential with this set, more health that scales into the healing of the character and her own survivability, but you will also heal more than usual if you're trying to heal one ally that is low on HP. I see that this set basically fits on this character perfectly, so that's what I'm gonna be using and recommending. But if you don't like the Hairfire alternate, the option, you have an alternative with Vermare set, and it will be for the utility, totally ignoring the crit here. It will be for the chance of reducing skill cooldowns by 1 round after using the skill. If you go for Vermare, you're gonna be trying to get the second skill as soon as possible, as much as possible, so you can give multiple Lionheart buff to the allies, or maybe stack multiple Lionheart buffs to the same ally, as well as giving them a lot of critical damage boost, and constantly buffing your allies with a 50% turn meter boost. You could buff, your ADC, your carry, your ranger, however you know it, or your mage, or your tank if you want a utility or you need a shield or things like that. You can decide, but Vermari will be for utility to have the skills more often. If you go for Hairfire, like I recommend you here, you will be maximizing her potential of healing. Now, uh, the next section is the relic sub-attributes, and it's this part right here. As you can see here, I don't have anything max or with an S rank, and that is because I don't play this character, I don't like it, but that doesn't mean that I don't know what is good for this. So I have these things as examples, but they will work. Basically, the best sub attributes that you should prioritize if you're gonna play with this character seriously is effect resistance and health points or HP, however you know it. And I'm gonna use a better example, from a better character to show you what I mean. We're gonna go here to the uh, SR Lupus Regina, the original one, and here you have the perfect example. This is a Vermare set, as you can see here, Vermare Sparkle set instead of a Hairfire, but that will be the only difference. Like, you can either use this set on Crusch Lulu as well, or you can use a Hairfire set instead of the Vermare, but trying to prioritize the same sub attributes, and you're gonna be fine. Okay, regardless if you go for one set or the other. Here you can see the perfect example on stats. 1A on reduction to the damage over time. That way your character doesn't get killed that easily by things like shock, poison, bleed, or burn effects. 1A on health, which makes her scale her best attribute, and that will scale all of her skill set. Then you have another A on effect resistance, which already plays into her arc light, that plays into her accessories tier level 9, that plays into her passive skill, that also plays into her ultimate because it gives effect resistance boost, and that also plays into her Lionheart that gives more effect resistance boost, and 1S on defense. 1S on defense is not bad considering that she has really poor physical defense. That way she is not gonna get killed in a single ultimate from Momon or from Seshi, so she doesn't get deleted. Here you can see the chest piece has 4 A's for physical defense, effect resistance, and health that I already explained, and 1 on speed. This character has B on speed, is really bad at moving or keeping the pace of the modern characters of this game, but with a little bit of extra speed, you can keep her up, at a stable rhythm in which you can constantly be healing your allies, even if the enemies inflict your character with things like speed down, that it decreases it by 20%. Now, for the weapon, we see that the pattern repeats: more speed, more effect precision, more effect resistance, more reduction to the damage over time. Effect precision is not really needed for Crush Lulu, but is what I got here. If you can replace that effect precision for more health or more speed, well, we already have speed here, so it will be health. that will be magnificent. For the base, you can see here 1C on damage boost, we can ignore that. Double S, 1 on critical damage resistance, so she doesn't get destroyed with critical damage. And another on effect resistance that already plays into her by literally a ton. It plays really well into the character. And 1A on speed, so she doesn't fall behind. Really nice. If I had to tell you what order to prioritize, I will tell you to prioritize health as your main concern, your main sub attribute. 10, go for effect resistance. 10 as the third place, it will be speed, and the fourth place, whatever you can get, either magical defense or physical defense or reduction to the damage over time, or all of that. You only have to avoid giving her attack, damage boost, critical chance, or critical damage. Those are the only ones that you should avoid. Everything else can be good in that fourth place. Now, the next part is going to be the enhancements or the enchant. I don't know the pronunciation, and nobody has ever told me what it is. So, yeah. And for that, I'm going to be using another character to show you what will be my recommendations for that character in particular. We can go here, and this is the first one. The indestructible fortress that you see here that I'm touching right now will be my first recommendation on the enhancements for the character. From level 1 to 6, from level 1 to 5 increases the effect resistance by a percentage, but from level 6 to level 10, aside of giving you really good amounts of effect resistance, is giving you reduction to the damage over time. That way the character doesn't get killed by things like bleed. Then, as another recommendation, you could try to get Fortitude Mag, that is magical defense in flat amounts from level 1 to 5, and from level 6 to level 10 is going to give you more magical defense, but also on a percentage. But still, your priority number 1 should be Indestructible Fortress. Fortitude Mag should be like a secondary enhancement, and your other priority enhancement is going to be Endless Cycle. From level 1 to 5 increases your health in plain amounts, in flat amounts, and from level 6 to 10 it also increases your health in percentage from 8 to 20%. That is really, really nice. But aside of that, you should also try to increase the Impeccable enhancement as much as you can. From level 1 to 5 gives you critical damage resistance, which is welcome, but more importantly, from level 6 to level 10 gives you healing up, that is basically healing boost. And try to get it to level 10, because from level 6 to level 9 is only 8%, but at level 10 is 20%. You will have extra 20% healing with this enhancement at level 10, combined with the extra healing that she gains from the Hairfire set, can be from 16 to 24%. And if you combine that with the extra healing boost that she gains on the accessories, that is another 10%. You have a really, really powerful healing ready to go anytime you need it, with the basic attack or the basic skill, or the normal active skill or the ultimate. That will play really, really well into the character. And if you want other enhancement aside of, Endless Cycle, Indestructible Fortress, and Impeccable, as well as the Fortitude Mag, you could try to get something like Iron Wall Protection. That way, when she gains any shield from other characters, she's gonna have a really good increase on her own healing. In her own shield, and that will increase her own survivability. And most tanks can give a shield or an extra defense to the allies one way or another. So if you can combine Crusch Lulu with a tank that shields, and you can put the Iron Wall Protection on her, it's gonna be really, really good. And you're gonna make it really difficult for the enemy to kill her unless the enemy can combine a ton of damage and dispelling capabilities at the same time. So either the enemy is gonna try to ignore her because they are not gonna be able to kill her, or the enemies are gonna waste a lot of resources in trying to kill her as soon as possible. And that means that the enemies are not gonna be using those resources on other things like your main damage dealer, unless the enemy is using, a full area of effect team, but only in those cases. Now, something that I want to highlight right now is how much effect resistance you can get naturally without going to the extremes. We're gonna go here with a passive skill. She's gonna get 20%. Okay. Then we go to the accessory tier 9. It's gonna gain extra 15%. We combine them and it's 35%, which is a nice amount. But then let's say that she uses her ultimate as soon as the game starts, as soon as she gains, one turn, her first turn. It's gonna be extra 45% if she is the target. If choose her as the target. So it's gonna be 35 plus 45%. So it's 30 plus 40 equal to 70. 5 and 5 is a total of 80% effect resistance. 80% used from her own kit and her ultimate. Then let's say that you want to, abuse that, and her next turn you throw Lionheart on herself. It's 80% plus 25. It's 105% effect resistance. And then let's say she had her arc light at 1 star. It's 105% plus 30. It's a total of 135% effect resistance on her second turn. Is really a ton. Like, you're gonna be making this character immune to any skill that has 100% basic chance and no effect precision. So you will need enemies with a ton of effect precision, with the 100% basic chance of inflicting special debuff on her, or enemies with 100% fixed chance to inflict you the debuff. Otherwise, she's basically gonna be immune or almost immune to the majority of the debuffs that the enemy can get or can try to pull on her. And that basically is everything about this character and her skills. She is really, really good at resisting controlled effects. She's good at making the enemies more vulnerable when they are under control effects. That is already a situation that makes the enemies vulnerable because they cannot throw their special skills or anything like that. So you're capitalizing on something that already happens and already puts the enemy in a bad situation no matter what. And on top of that, you have a healer that increases critical damage and turn meter boost by 50, 50%, 10%, and 20%, depending on what skill you use. I will say that is a pretty solid character. Like, it's not the best, but it's not the worst healer. And by that, if I had to tell you, if you had to level up this character, I will say, yeah, level her up, unless you have the anniversary albedo, or Pestonia, or Pandora's Actor. Those will be 3 healers that I will say are much better than her, and that will make her, be forgotten. But if you don't have those characters, you can pretty much level up Crusch and Max Hero and all of that, and you're gonna have a pretty solid healer. Now, for the last part, the themes and compositions to play around her. She is a healer to begin with, so she's not gonna have, a lot of protagonism. She's not gonna be able to be the MVP of the team all the time. So, more than having compositions around her, it will be compositions with her. But we can still make it up. The easiest one to tell you is the Lizardman composition. You can make a full team of Lizardmans. You can have this guy as a support that is gonna debuff the enemies. You can have this guy here on the early game to kill the enemies and gain extra damage with his passive. And that extra damage is gonna make him basically an executioner that is gonna uh, get in the way and kill the enemies really, really fast once the enemies start to fall. You can play her with Shasuryu because he is a tank that shields the allies, so she will have more survivability thanks to him, and he has, fixed chance on the passive skill to taunt the enemy and basic chances of taunting the enemy with the ultimate. So he has multiple ways of controlling the enemy. So he can control the enemies. That way, if Crusch is the captain of the team, she will make them more vulnerable. And by that, you can use already that synergy. She makes enemies under control effects more vulnerable, and Shazuri is the one that makes them vulnerable by putting them in control effects. You can also put, for example, Saryusu here on the team board for the same reason. He can control the enemies. He's the only character in the game that can freeze the enemy. He can put them in the frozen state with the cold stacks. So he can freeze them, put them in control effects. Crusch will make them more vulnerable. And because this is a warrior type character that is meant to do damage, he's gonna be able to enjoy that extra 15% more damage to enemies under control effects, combined with the frost power and the passive skill that increases his attack and all of that. He's gonna have a great time killing enemies under control effects, especially if you can combine Saryusu with other characters that make control effects, or that boost him to do more control effects, like Pestonia, that she can give 2 meter boost to Saryusu and reduce his cooldown by 1 round, so he can throw an ultimate again, or the second skill to reduce the cooldown of the ultimate and throw it again, so he can control multiple enemies at the same time and do extra damage to them thanks to Crusch passive. Sorry, thanks to Crusch captain skill. And if you fear that the enemy might retaliate and kill your Saryusu, or control him, with a stun so he doesn't have a chance of freezing the enemies, you can put preventively the Lionheart skill on Saryusu before the enemies even throw the skills at him. So that way you have more chances at making him survive not only the normal damage, but also making him more reliant, or sorry, not reliant, more resilient to being debuff, and he will be immune for 2 rounds to control effects. So by throwing the Lionheart skill preventively on things like Saryusu, you can assure that your team is gonna be making a combo. You assure that he is not gonna be out of the game by a stun or something like that, and he's gonna be able to guarantee that he's gonna throw something like the ultimate and control the enemies. But there are more teams. If you don't like something like the Lizardman team with, for example, Saryusu, you can go for a critical damage team. That means characters with high critical damage, like what? Saryusu, for example, here as well. You see 81%. Or Momon here, and has 50 in my case, but he will guarantee critical hits every third hit. Or if you don't like that, you can go for the classical ranger characters that do a lot of crit. Like Seshi here, she has 82%. Nigredo has 53 against like 30% extra against certain targets. Like this SSR Pretty Little Entoma with 75% crit. She can in fact guarantee the crit by getting to 100%. This Albedo, the mate version, has 91 in my case. She can easily go to 100% once she is on the battlefield throwing attacks. You can also combine Crusch with the the Halloween Momon, that is another crit-based character, and all of those crit-based characters will enjoy playing with Crusch, not only because she gives critical damage boost, that is an increase of 30% more critical damage, but because she can constantly give 2 meter boost. And if you notice that something is like the majority of crit characters like Momon or Seshi or Entoma, for example, the majority of them have either A or S on speed. That means that they already move fast. Like for example, Nigredo has A here as well. So those are characters that move fast and hit hard. So with Crusch assistance, they're gonna be able to hit harder to the enemy and to gain their turns even faster than usual. Especially characters like, for example, Seshi and Nigredo. Why? Seshi can stun the enemy with the ultimate, and she does a ton of damage and a ton of critical damage. If you use Seshi with Crusch, for example, she's gonna be able to steal part of the enemy turn meter as well as their speed. So she's accelerating her own turn, her next turn, with one skill, and then you can use either the ultimate or the basic attack or the second skill of Crusch on her to increase her turn meter even more. Like you can get first turn with Seshi, throw the ultimate, steal 30% of the enemy turn meter boost, sorry, turn meter, and then when you gain the Crusch turn, you throw Lionheart on Seshi. You will make her immune to control effects by when the enemy retaliates and so, but she will have an extra 50% turn meter boost, which is really, really powerful. And you can basically make characters like Seshi spam their turns even faster than usual. And this is a character that already spams attacks because she moves so fast. And the same for Nigredo. She moves really fast because she has great speed, but she will also gain 30% turn meter when she attacks someone with Gaze using her ultimate. Or when the enemies that have her special debuff being Gaze move, she's also gonna gain 25% turn meter boost. So she will be constantly moving, skipping enemy turns, and playing before them. You can combine that with Crush 10% turn meter from her basic skill, 50% turn meter boost with her Lionheart skill, or 20% turn meter boost with her ultimate. You're not only healing your ally, you're giving them buff and you're increasing their turn meter, making them play faster. Something like Big Team 2 as well. He's a very, very explosive character, we can say. And you can give him more turn meter, so he has a turn faster than usual before the enemy expects it in the multiplayer cases, and he will have more critical damage added to it. So you can go for either the Lizardman team or you can go for a critical damage team, based on these kind of characters. If you don't have these characters that I told you, you can use others that you may have. Like for example, if you have this solution with critical damage, you can go with her. Or if you have normal aura with critical damage, you can also go with her. Like mine has 67%, that is good. Or if you have this aura, Diego Revolter, or this Nave, those are also crit based characters. You can use them as well, and they enjoy the same buffs of Crush exactly the same way that the other characters that I told you do. So even if you don't have some of the characters that I told you, you can use other rangers instead, and you're fine. You're good to go. And it will be for the damage dealers, the ranger. But if you want, for example, a tank to play with them that also has synergy, you could either go with this, the Roja Musque, especially because of the passive and the ultimate. Ultimate is gonna be basically lowering the enemy defense, increasing your team defense, and dispelling buffs. And the passive is, between a lot of things, is also gonna increase everyone's attack by certain percentage of a Muske's physical defense, and it's gonna add it as true damage that nullifies the defense. So you can combine the extra damage from Hamuske with the critical damage dealers like your rangers, and then the boost or the turn meter or the critical damage that gives Crush Lulu, and you have a tank, a healer, and a ranger on your team. They all have synergy and they all have a specific role that does not repeat. And on your last character, you can add either another tank, or you can add a mage, or you can add another support or a healer to make sure that nobody dies, depending on what you have. If you use this this Hamuske, you can use Saryusu, for example. You have a warrior now. Like a quick example, trying to combine all the synergies with Krish Lulu, I will tell you, Robo Hamuske, the first one, your tank. Then I will put Saryusu, your warrior on the team. Then is Crusch as your priest or your support, however you want to know it. And then No Death No Life, Seshi as your ranger. What is the synergy? Well, the synergy is the next one. Seshi can stun the enemy. So she's gonna stun the enemy, make them vulnerable, and that is gonna make the enemies even more vulnerable because the captain skill of Crush is gonna apply. So the enemies are gonna have less effect resistance and they're gonna receive more damage. And because Seshi constantly has a turn, she's gonna be enjoying that extra damage to the enemies that are stunned. And because she chases the enemies, even after her own ultimate gets thrown the first turn, she's already enjoying the captain skill of Crush Lulu. Then you play something like this Hamuske. And not only he or well, she lowers the enemy defense by a ton, like literally, like 40%, but also increases all of your team defense by 40%. That plays into, a Crush low defense. That way you're compensating the weakness of the character. But it doesn't stop there. The second skill is a stun. It's another way of controlling the enemy, either the same one or another one. And the ultimate gives you a shield wall. When shield wall gets reduced, this Hamuski is gonna automatically throw a laser beam to the enemy with highest attack, so it's another stun for free. So you can control another enemy, make them have a reduced effect resistance, and make them receive more damage. And then you have the passive skill that is gonna increase everyone's armor more. It's gonna increase everyone's attack based on her physical defense, and not only that, it's also gonna forcibly block enemy damage um, to a certain amount of 4 times per round and per ally. So she's gonna basically throw the ultimate of the PDL just without the visual effect. You're gonna have a barrier that protects everyone. So you have control, you have damage, you have armor with Hamuske. With Seshi you have more damage, and you have control and turn meter, because she's gonna steal the turn meter of the enemy and she moves really fast. And then you have something like Sariusu. Sariusu can go either critical damage or full attack. Both versions work, but he offers more control. Even if you don't want to use, for example, Hamuske control skills on the first turn, you can use Sariusu instead. So you freeze the enemy with Sariusu, you stun the enemy, another enemy with Seshi Ultimate, you lower all the enemy physical defense with Hamuske, and then the next turns, when Sariusu and Seshi ultimates are cooldown, you still have the laser beam from Hamuske to keep controlling the same enemies or other enemies. And by doing that, you assure that in every moment of the game, you're controlling at least one enemy. That means that at all moments, you're making use of Crusch captain skill, especially because none of these characters have captain skills, so you're always going to be using that one. The critical damage boost that a Crush gives, it could benefit either Sariusu or Seshi, or Nigredo if you want to use Nigredo instead of Seshi, things like that, or the Ego Revolter Aura or something like that. Then the Lionheart that gives effect resistance and immunity control effects could go either to your damage dealer like Seshi or Sariusu, so they don't get stunned, or can go to your tank, so your tank can resist more damage because it's your line of defense, or can go to Crush herself, so she doesn't get stunned and she can be ready to heal your allies in case that you need it. And then, well, of course, you have Crush to give multiple buffs and to heal your allies and increase their turn meter boost. And you can increase either Seshi turn meter or Nigredo, so they spam the attacks to the enemies, or you can increase Ariusu turn meter so he can attack the enemies and have more chances. Oh, it's another day. Lol. And you can have more chances to control the enemies, or you can increase the turn of the tank so the tank can throw this, the control effects faster or something like that. You have variety. You have, from where to choose. So you have either a Lizardman team, or you have the critical damage team, or you have, this team that I told you that is all the synergies combined. That is Seshi, the Robo Hamuske, Sarius, and Crush. That is all the synergies of Crush in one single team, and the effect resistance plays because everyone enjoys effect resistance regardless of their role. And then you have one last team, a full control team. What does a full control team entails? Characters like Tank Albedo, this one right here. She can taunt one enemy, and if you're lucky or if you have good effect precision, she can taunt entire teams on at least 2 enemies. You can add a damage dealer to control the enemies, like for example Nigredo or Seshi or Sariusu. A character that does damage but also controls the enemies. And more control characters, more control type characters. Could be something like the PDL, for example, for the stun that he has on the second skill, or it can be Sariusu and Shasuryu for the taunt and the freeze capabilities, or whatever. Anything you have that can stun or freeze or silence or taunt the enemy. even this Yuri counts. Like, uh, to tell you quickly, a control team, it will be that Crush, it will be this Albedo because she can control entire teams at the time. So she can control everyone on a single turn, so your other characters can save their control skills for the next turns. She's basically indispensable for control teams. You have Crush, you have Albedo, the tank version. I will either go with Nigredo, Seshi, or Victim. Nigredo has the silence and she can extend control effects with the second skill, so she can extend things like the tank from Albedo. Seshi can stun the enemies and steal their true meter, or you have things like Victim that is gonna be able to also stun all the enemies or just one enemy and increase everyone's attack. But he's very squishy and he needs certain compositions to be able to really show his potential. So a full control team that I would recommend you will be something like a Tank Albedo, this Nigredo, Crush of course, and then Seshi. With Seshi, you have the first turn, you have speed. You are sure that you're gonna be playing before the enemy, unless you are against another Seshi. You stun the enemy, you steal their turn meter, you do a ton of damage. Then you may have to play something like Nigredo because she's very fast. You can decide to either silence another enemy to control another enemy, or to extend the duration of the stun that Seshi throw. Depending on what you need, you still do damage because both are rangers, both are great damage dealers. Then you're gonna be playing either Crush or Albedo. Let's say Albedo, just to give an example. You could either use Albedo to give everyone shields in case you don't have her at 6 stars. You can give one ally shields in case you need it or you want, or you can use her to throw a basic attack at an enemy if the enemies that you wanted to control are already controlled, and that will provoke either an assist attack from Nigredo or a chase attack from Seshi. So you still do damage. And if you throw that to the enemies that are controlled, you're making use of Crush Captain skill that is really good. And you have the synergy there. And if you want to control more enemies, or you wanted to save the control from Seshi and Nigredo first, you can wait until Albedo turn and throw the ultimate, so she taunts the entire enemy team or multiple enemies and they are under control. Or can be vice versa. You already used Nigredo and Seshi control skills, so by the next turns, when the enemies are not under control, you try to play Albedo as fast as you can, so you taunt them again. So the enemies are basically unable to throw any skill, and then they're still under control effects, they still have effect resistance reduced, they still take more damage. And because you have double damage dealer, you still do a ton of damage. And then you have a tank that is going to protect you and help you by literally the entire game. And then you have a Crush being the healer, so if anyone needs any help, you can heal them or make them immune to control effects. And anytime that you want, you can give a turn meter boost to anyone that you need. It could be your tank or it could be your damage dealers. So at the end of the day, you can go for a full control team or a full critical damage team or a full Lizardman team or the fully synergized team of her that I told you. It's your choice. And those teams have multiple characters that you can play them. Like the control team can have SR Yuri, can have the PDL, can have Albedo, the tank version, or can have Jaldabaoth, or can have the Death Knight, or can have multiple enemies, multiple allies. It can have the Echo Revolter Aura, whatever you can think that controls the enemy works. It can have Saryusu, all of that. So yeah, once that I have clarified that, that is everything for basically today. Is the next guide or the next part is the practical part, where I go to the arena and show you the character, fighting all the teams that I told you against different teams and compositions. So wait for that. But because I'm busy this week, that guide is probably gonna be released tomorrow or the next day, not immediately after this one. So you will have to wait a little bit if you're seeing this on release. That I doubt nobody does that. But anyway, almost nobody. There's like one or two people that like me on YouTube. Shout out to those people. You know who you are. But aside of that, yeah, that will be everything for this character guide. And I will try to, give her some levels and give her some skills or some good relics before I go to the arena and show you this character. So yeah, everything now is clarified, and thanks for being here. As the last thing, I haven't posted guides because I was really busy with my social service and some projects on the university. So